Each year at the Innovations in Testing Conference, we challenge ourselves to think about the future and about how we're going to adapt to change before change overtakes us. Jim Carroll has made a distinguished career of mapping out for his readers and his audiences the rapid pace of change in business and technology. He has been a champion of fast-paced innovation. He is recognized worldwide as a thought leader and authority on global trends, business model change, and business transformation in times of economic uncertainty. He is presented to organizations such as NASA, Disney, the PGA of America, and the Swiss Innovation Forum. And now he brings that same experience and energy to us here today. As Mr. Carroll himself says in one of his acclaimed books, the future belongs to those who are fast. And so, without further ado or delay, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce Jim Carroll as our opening keynote speaker.
Good morning. What a stern-looking guy in that photo. You're kind of thinking, oh my God, he looks kind of angry, kind of cross. I've been out in the conference circuit for about 20 years. I'm here today. I was actually in Phoenix 2 weeks ago speaking at a conference. I'm flying back here next Monday. I have another event. I do a lot of events in Las Vegas, and that's where I get my job description. People ask me, what do you do for a living? And I basically say, well, put it this way, I go out and I talk to large groups of hungover people. That's essentially what I do. Somebody has to do it, particularly when you're in Vegas and, sometimes you walk in the room in the morning, and you swear they've come straight from the tables. I have a lot of interesting clients. You're a very interesting client. I found myself at NASA's Goddard Space Center last June. They called me up to ask me to come in and talk to a bunch of astrophysicists, the people who are building the replacement for the Hubble telescope, the James Webb telescope, people who are studying objects in deep interplanetary space. They asked me to come in and talk to them about the future and about innovation. This kind of freaked me out. I think I'm a little bit smart, but I'm not that smart. And I sort of said, I don't understand. You've got people, in the room whose IQs are going to be way the heck out there. What the heck is going on? And the answer came back and they said, while our people are very good at what they do not comprehend and realize the depth to which the business of space is changing. And we think that you can come in and challenge ourselves and challenge us to rethink what the industry might look like in 10 or 20 years, when commercialization of space has become a fact, when hobbyists can become people who can enter the space industry. So I went into NASA, had a great time, and I opened that event with 3 slides, 3 observations. I'm going to use the same slides, the same observations with you, as I do in every single talk I do, because I do a lot of research. I go into a lot of different industries and study what is going on, see a lot of statistics, but through the years there have been 3 statistics which have really stuck with me. The very first comes from a study that was done in Australia several years ago, where they were looking at the education system and how quickly change was happening, how quickly knowledge is evolving. And they've come to the conclusion that 65% of the children who are in preschool today will work in jobs or careers that don't even yet exist. How are you going to test for careers and skills that don't even yet exist? And with what I do, with the groups that I'm going into, the folks that I'm talking to, I believe this fact might be true. I think we might find ourselves in a situation where 7 out of 10 kids right now who are in kindergarten and preschool are likely to have skills and jobs that don't even yet exist. And let me show you this by going through a little question. How many of you today carry around a smartphone? Hold up your hands. Everybody's got a smartphone, right? A study was done in the US that your social standing today depends upon the type of technology that you carry around. In other words, if you go to a party and you bring out a flip phone, people are kind of looking at you, what a loser, you got something from the olden days, right? So we've all got smartphones, and think about what has happened. We've all got GPS in our pocket. And in the last several years, we've seen the rapid emergence of all these spatial, S-P-A-T-I-A-L, all these geographic-oriented databases. And we are witnessing the emergence of a group of people, an entire profession, known as location intelligence professionals. I'm going into the insurance industry, and I'm talking, within the insurance industry, how location intelligence professionals, are working with actuaries to come up with new ways of examining insurance risk with all these geographic information sources. in ways they never previously could. Second observation comes from the world of US science education. Study was done that indicated, when it comes to science, science is accelerating. There's so much change happening so fast because of the big global idea machine that is the internet, that it is estimated we're in a situation in which anybody taking any type of degree based upon science, so anything agriculture, architecture, engineering, anything medical, a lot of constituents from that industry in the room, we're in a situation in which it's estimated half of what we learn in the very first year of a college or a university program is obsolete or revised by the time we graduate. When I was speaking in Phoenix 2 weeks ago, I was speaking to a group of farmers, some of the top farming producers in the US. And if you look at the world of agriculture, we're in a situation, so many new methodologies, the impact of technology, the impact of genomic science, all kinds of new forms of crop treatment. Farmers, the world of agriculture is in the midst of this massive change driven by the rapid acceleration of science. Third observation, I was with the Consumer Electronic Association CEO Summit. I had the CEOs of Sony and Panasonic and all these organizations. I was talking to the manufacturer of digital camera. And he indicated when they bring the typical digital camera to the marketplace today, they figure they've got about 3 to 6 months to sell it before it's obsolete. Because the world of technology is changing so darn fast. And that's why my favorite phrase comes from the global media magnate Rupert Murdoch, who observed years ago, if you think about what is going on, if you think about the trends, if you think about the world of accelerating change, there is so much change happening now. It is happening with such speed that increasingly it's not big organizations that will win and own and control the future because of historical legacy. It's the fast. The future belongs to those who are fast. It's going to be your ability as testing professionals to keep up with rapid career change, the rapid evolution of new careers, the rapid evolution of knowledge, the rapid evolution of skills that will define your future success. And we got to wonder, how are you doing? So one thing I always like to do with every audience is ask you a question directly. How do you think you're doing? When it comes to the fast future, I want to do a little text message poll. I would like you to take out your cell phones, your Blackberries, whatever device you have, because as a speaker, things have evolved. You see people out there, they're always looking down like this. We know you're using your device. You might as well take advantage of it. And here's the question. When it comes to the fast future, how well are you prepared? If you think you're extremely well positioned for success, then what you do is you send a text message to the number 22333, and you punch into the body of the message 609977. You think you're somewhat positioned for success? Punch in 609978. If you're under the age of 25 and you know how to tweet, send a tweet to @poll space one of these numbers, and your vote will come in. And while we're seeing what the room is thinking, I want to tell you 2 little stories. I was in Austin, Texas last year, and I was speaking to the Texas Credit Union League, a CEO conference. I had 600 CEOs for credit unions, large and small, from throughout the great state of Texas in the room. And I was looking out at the audience, and the average age seemed to be about 55 plus. And I was doing this text message poll, and I could see all these folks going, I don't know how to text. Do you know how to text? I don't know what to do here. How do I participate? Out of that room of 600 CEOs, 3 people managed to get in a vote. Think about the world of rapid change in the context of banking. Do you know what's going to happen in the next several years? And it's going to happen with blinding speed. These smartphones that we carry around are about to become credit cards. We won't be using little plastic credit cards anymore because our cell phones will have credit card technology built into them. And this is going to cause massive change in the world of banking. Huge disruption. And here I've got a room full of bankers who barely know how to use the technology, which is going to steamroller their industry. Contrast that with my younger son's high school. They brought me into the auditorium, last year, 300 kids come into the auditorium. They asked me to come in and talk to them. And I walked out on stage and I said, I understand I'm in a high school. And the rules in a high school are you're not supposed to be using your cell phones. Take them out because we're going to do a poll. 297 out of 300 kids responded in the first 35 seconds. That's your customer. That's the next generation. And how do you evolve your platforms? How do you evolve your technology? How do you evolve your relevance to their world when their minds are wired entirely differently? How do you deal with a world in which the future belongs to those who are fast? Well, we're not feeling too good about it right now. We're not terribly convinced that we're positioned for success. We've got, of those who've responded in the room, 155 people have indicated, I'm only somewhat positioned for success. I'm behind in my ability to keep up. The guy's been on stage 5 minutes and he's totally got me freaked out already. Now, we do have some people who have voted, we're toast, it's way too fast. You know what happened here? These are people who made friends with the minibar last night, and they stayed up way too late, and they're not feeling good about anything. They're going, my God, it's at 5 o'clock, cocktail hour yet? Get me through this day. And of course, we got a chunk of people in the room who are extremely well positioned for success. I know who these people are. These are salespeople. These are the people, upstairs with the. They had to wake up this morning and just, I'm going to get a sale today. It's all good. You can tell the frame of mind. So here's what's going on. I spend time with a huge range of organizations. The Walt Disney Group, the PGA of America, NASA, Noble Energy, the College Board has had me in. And everybody's focused on, what do we do in a world of extremely rapid change? I went into NASA's Goddard Space Center in June. It was a real thrill. You drive in the main entrance, and, there they've got my name up in lights. NASA welcomes author and futurist Jim Carroll. And, preparing for NASA was a little bit intimidating, right? This is a fascinating crowd. And I'm thinking to myself, as I'm putting my slide deck together, I'm probably going to have one shot to get in front of an audience at NASA. I got one shot. I got to do this right. And I'm thinking, what can I talk about? And I'm thinking about, I'm going in there. I got to talk about George Jetson. I got to put a picture of George Jetson up on the screen. So I went into images.google.com and I found this picture of George Jetson. There's George. And I found another picture of George Jetson. And I was talking to them about the Jetsons. And I'm thinking, they're thinking maybe I'm a little bit weird. This is NASA. We sort of get it. And then I said, think about what's really going on in these pictures. George is doing FaceTime chats with his boss. He's using Skype. He's getting his news off the internet. What's so absolutely fascinating here is we have this TV show from the 1950s in which what is happening is predictions are made about the future, and those predictions are coming true. As I'm preparing my slide deck for NASA, and I'm thinking I got one shot, one time to get on stage in front of them, I got to have a picture of Spock. I cannot go into NASA and not talk about Spock. So I went on images.google.com, I found this picture of Spock, and I'm talking about Spock. Some of you might remember the context of this particular show. In this particular show, what Spock is holding there is a medical tricorder, a magic little device that he could put up next to someone's head that would tell them every medical condition this person had ever had or is ever likely to develop. I'm talking to NASA about Spock. But the context in which I am talking to them about is the context of a world of crowdfunding, a world in which organizations are challenging the global scientific community through such efforts as the X Prize to take on some of the grand challenges of our time. The Qualcomm, one of the world's largest chip manufacturers, the chips at the heart of our cell phones, put together a $10 million prize, challenging the global scientific community to develop the medical tricorder as seen in the Star Trek television series. And lo and behold, a group of scientists over at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, using a crowdfunding initiative, raised the funds to develop the Xanadu Scout, a medical tricorder. Selling it for $249. I bought one sight unseen. It ships at the end of the month. Do you know what's happening here, folks? The period of time when predictions are made that are from the world of science fiction, and the period of time in which those predictions become true is absolutely collapsing. It's fascinating to think about the world of accelerating change in which we find ourselves today. A few years ago, I found myself on stage, in Las Vegas talking about 3D printing as some far-fetched futuristic concept. This really freaky idea that someday we're going to have printers which will print in 3 dimensions. Science fiction, futuristic dreams, futuristic technology. We now find ourselves in a world in which the period of time between science fiction predictions and reality is collapsing. In January, I was the opening keynote speaker for the National Association of Dental Laboratories. There were a number of 3D printing companies on the show floor. The impact of 3D printing technology upon this industry is profound. What is happening with such speed is that this organization has on the agenda of their conference discussion as to how they are going to transition to a world in which they will soon be printing bridges and dentures, medical appliances, as part of our dental surgery in their office using 3D printing technology. I was just talking about this as science fiction, and all of a sudden we have an entire profession who is talking about it as the next reality. How are you going to keep up with that rate of change? How are you going to test them for the requisite skills, that they have mastered, the necessary quality control capabilities, the necessary architectural capabilities, the necessary radar and imaging and X-ray capabilities to ensure they're getting the proper fit? This is but one profession out there which is being impacted by profound change. And it's kind of fascinating to think about how quickly this change is occurring. So I want to try another little text message poll, and this one's always kind of fun, just so you understand how quickly your world is changing. When did you get your last new cell phone? You send a text to 22333, and if it was last week, you punch in 4825527. 1 to 2 months ago, you punch in 4825532. And while we're waiting to see what's going on in the room, I want to tell you another little story. How many times have you been to a conference in the last several years, and when you've walked in the back door, they've handed you a little polling stick? It's like a little TV remote control, and you've done this really cool polling in the room using hardware. To outfit a room like this with that technology to support this number, size of an audience, would probably have cost upwards of $30,000. That technology is now old, dead, obsolete, dustbin of history. Because all I'm doing is using a little service in the cloud here that costs me a certain fee per month. And I can create my own little polling infrastructure live in real time, just like that, using the technology that you have in your pocket. We live in a world of absolutely furious rates of change. And look at what we have. The vast majority of the room has replaced their cell phone 6 months to 2 years ago. Early adopters, 41%. And we got the flip phone users who are going, oh my God, and they're going to go to the cocktail party and I'm not taking my phone out anywhere. People are just going to look at me, as if I'm an absolute madman. But think about this. This is how quickly we are changed in the technology, which is a part of our lives. So what do we want to do here? What we want to do here is we want to focus on the trends which are going to impact you in the future. I could stand here all day and talk about the trends, which are going to change the context of what you do. But let's think about what is really happening. We are right now in the era of really big, bold, transformative ideas. We live in a period of time in which there are people in every single industry who are looking at that industry and saying we can make big, bold, massive changes in terms of industry structure, in terms of skills, in terms of professions. Back in 2003, I was invited over to Stuttgart, Germany. I was invited over by Daimler Chrysler. This was the newly merged entity of Mercedes-Benz and Chrysler. And it was a small meeting. It was to focus on what would the car industry, automotive industry, look like in the year 2013. They had 10 auto executives from Mercedes. They had 10 auto executives from Chrysler. And they brought me in, Jim Carroll, futurist, to stir up the pot. So we started the first morning. These are very serious auto engineers. And they started trying to figure out, what the industry is going to look like in 10 years by talking about what their competition of today might be doing then. And so their conversation sort of went, well, Honda's going to do this, and we'll probably see Toyota do that. And we'll probably see, Ford do this initiative. All they could conceive is that in 10 years, their existing competition would be their competition of today. And I finally chimed in and said, folks, the world doesn't work like that anymore. We live in a world in which every single industry is being disrupted. We live in a world in which there are people looking at industries and saying, we can do things differently. And I said, you could find yourself in a situation in 2013 in which you are competing with a company that isn't even in the auto industry today. And they laughed at me. And I said, no, you don't get it. It could really happen. They said, give us an example. I had to think quick. At that moment in time, I had my laptop open. I had Google Maps on the screen. Remember 2003, Google Maps was appearing for the very first time. You know, remember that magical time you went to see Google Maps and you saw a picture of your house from space, you know, from satellite? Whoa, it's not like you hadn't seen your house before. You know, I had Google Maps on the screen, and, you know, I started thinking quickly, and I said, well, how about this? We could have a couple of engineers at Google's headquarters in Mountain View, California right now, and they're looking at Google Maps, and one of them says to the other, you know what, this is really cool, this mapping technology we have. You know what we should do? We should build a car around this. We should get in the car industry. And I said, what Google is going to do, they're not actually going to build the car. They're going to design the car. They're going to figure it out and do really cool navigation stuff with it. They're simply going to line up for an existing car manufacturer in Brazil, India, China, Tennessee, it doesn't matter where, to build the car on their behalf. I said, Google's going to be very much into new business models, new distribution methodologies. I said, Google realizes a lot of people don't like to buy cars at auto dealers. We always feel like we're getting ripped off. What Google is going to do, recognizing people are buying things on the internet, they're going to sell the car to you online. They're going to be very big into logistics, partnership. They're going to line up a deal with FedEx to deliver the car to you in a box. And, you know, at this point, these auto engineers, very serious German auto engineers, are looking at me like I'm a nutcase. And I've only just begun. And I said, you know what? There's this thing called social networking coming along. There's this idea of viral marketing buzz. And what Google is going to do, when you open up that Google car in a box, you're going to discover the Google party in a box. There's going to be Google car wine and Google car hats and streamers and confetti and horns, and you're going to throw a neighborhood party because you got the coolest car in the street. How do you think these very serious American and German auto engineers are looking at me, and what do you think they're thinking as I'm talking about the potential for Google to become a car company? Maybe what's going through your mind right now. That's the dumbest idea I ever heard. And here we are in 2014. Tesla Motors, the year of the Model S. It's rewriting the rules of the auto industry. You know, it's designed according to the design methodologies and principles of Silicon Valley. You can buy the darn thing online. And the equity founders, the primary founders, Elon Musk, the founder of PayPal, and the founder of SpaceX, which is challenging NASA in the business of space, and the primary two equity founders of Google. They're changing the distribution model. If you go down the street to the Scottsdale Fashion Mall, next to all the high-end fashion clothing stores, you will find a Tesla Motors dealership. We have folks who are sitting here and saying we can do things entirely differently in this industry. The challenge for a lot of folks goes back to an observation made by Bill Gates, that most people tend to overestimate the rate of change that will occur on a 2-year basis. They underestimate how much change is going to occur on a 10-year basis. Do we think the world of testing is going to look 10 years out, anything like it does today? When we have a generation coming through the school system today whose entire lives are linked to the mobile devices that they carry around. And the very technology of those mobile devices is changing at an absolutely furious pace. Think about what's going on with the space industry. Think about what is happening here for an organization like NASA, who is realizing everything is changing and it's happening faster than ever before. There are today 350 companies in the new space industry. 75% are privately held. We got folks talking about in-space manufacturing, pharmaceutical industries, asteroid mining. How are we going to test and certify the new skills that are emerging here when we have investors like Eric Schmidt of Sun Microsystems, Charles Simonyi of Microsoft, James Cameron, look at that, a typo, Larry Page from Google, Ross Perot. You know, what do we do in which so much change has happened so fast? You know, I was speaking at an energy conference in Fort Myers about a month ago, and we were talking about the trends coming into the world of energy. Do you know what's happening which is so absolutely freaky in the energy industry? The MP3 industry is set to change the energy industry. We're getting the capability in our backyards for solar power, for wind power, for biomass energy generation. And what is happening in the utility industry is we're realizing, you know, these folks are now saying, well, I got a little bit of extra energy here. You want me to share it with you? They are creating their own private energy grids. We shared music. Why don't we share energy? And the energy utility industry realizes it's in for a period of massive business model disruption. as local energy networks begin to appear everywhere. Think about how quickly battery technology is being developed. Think of what Google is announcing. Right now, the challenge with electric cars is what we call range anxiety. We can only drive a Tesla so far, before we run out of juice. Battery technology is accelerating so quickly that that is going to be a thing of the past. There are companies in the energy industry right now. We're going to sit back in 10 years and we're going to realize, wow, they were like an Apple in that they came in and provided the infrastructure and the support and the business model to support these private energy neighborhood grids. And we're going to be in a world in which people will be able to print their own solar panels on their own 3D printers in their home. I'm not making this stuff up because this is the stuff that people are talking about at the conferences, which I am going to open. Think about the evolution of careers. Think about what is going to emerge here. Robotic pharmaceutical therapy monitors. We're entering a world of intelligent medicine. Medicine that actually, as you take it, has tiny sensors embedded in the pill so that it tracks internally how well it is working. We are witnessing the career of water footprint analysis. Water is one of the biggest challenges of our time. This region is in the midst of a huge water drought. And there is a career of people who are responsible for measuring the usage of water by people, industry, golf courses, anything else. We're witnessing careers of people known as vertical farming infrastructure managers. We're witnessing the careers of drone, helicopter insurance, crop risk management. I don't make this stuff up. That's what I was talking about with these farmers 2 weeks ago in this very area. We are in a world in which people are talking about vertical farm infrastructure managers. At that conference, what we were speaking about is that 70% of the Earth's population will be living in urban centers by the year 2050. Urban farming is becoming a major area of global growth with year-round crop production. 1 indoor acre is the equivalent of 4 to 6 acres of crop. What is happening is here it virtually eliminates agricultural runoff. We can recycle the water. And not only that, we can generate energy through methane production. This is real stuff real people are talking about. Big, bold, transformative ideas. And what's the impact on you? Well, we got to think about the rapid emergence of new skills, new professions, the impact upon the existing skills and professions that we are providing testing capabilities for. New stakeholders are going to emerge that are going to challenge your role and your relevance. And it's going to be your continuous adoption of new ideas going forward that will define your success. Your open mind to change will determine how well you will do in the future. And that's what this conference is all about. It's your opportunity to share ideas, share insight, challenge yourself, because the infrastructure of the world of 2025 is being built around us right now. It's kind of fascinating. Some about a year and a half ago, as the opening keynote speaker for the Texas Municipal League, I had in the room 2,000 mayors for cities, towns from throughout the great state of Texas. And my keynote was 4 days after the re-election of President Obama. I'm in Texas. I walk out on stage and I understand, you folks are in the midst of the 7 stages of election grief. There's probably a lot of you, Texas mayors who are in the state of shock. You're in the state of guilt. You're in the state of anger. As elected officials, you need to ensure that you move along to the stage of acceptance. That is your role as the municipal infrastructure leaders. And what did I talk to them about? Talk to them about infrastructure. You think about what happened in the 1800s. In the 1800s, the US built the Intercontinental Railroad Network. Towns withered or died based on whether they were on the main line. Towns survived as to how well they adapted to the fact that the infrastructure of the 20th century was being built around them. In the 1950s, we saw the emergence of the Eisenhower Interstate Highway System. Towns withered or died, depending on where they were located to the interstate highway system. And where are we now? Where we are right now is we have emerging around us the infrastructure of the future. Hey, what's going to happen to the car you drive? Think of what's going to happen by 2017. By 2017, we're likely to have a Siri button from Apple in every single car. You're going to talk to your car just as you talk to your phone. By 2017, we're probably going to have in our car fully capable augmented reality screens built into the dashboard and built into the visor, the sunscreen, the windscreen. Yeah, anybody snowboarder, skier in the room? You seen the goggles by Burton and Oakley? You know, we've got kids coming down the hill, and these have augmented displays built into the visors. And, you know, they're coming down the hill, they're getting their Facebook feed, they're getting Twitter posts, they're getting text messages from friends, they're getting real-time information on their speed, their velocity, the number of miles they've skied or boarded, dude. If you ski or board, you always want to ski behind these people because they're not really paying attention to what's going on. But that technology is coming to our cars faster than we think. We're going to have glasses-free 3D dashboards where interactive marketing billboards will pop out at us. I was speaking at a real estate conference a couple of weeks ago in New Jersey, and I was saying, you know, think about what's going to happen. We're going to talk to our car. I'm in this neighborhood, and I'd like to find 5 properties that have 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a swimming pool. And Siri is going to respond, I found 5 properties for you. And you're simply going to say, okay, take me there. Then you're going to need some lunch, and it's going to find a restaurant for you. And not only will your cell phone have become a credit card, your car will have become a credit card because it will have credit card transaction technology embedded within the vehicle. I don't make this stuff up. Think about what happens here. Think about what happens to people, to skills. And all of this is emerging and unfolding right now. You know, there's a $1 billion town being set up in New Mexico where companies like Google and all these organizations involved in building this infrastructure can test their technology. They're testing technologies such as self-driving car trains, you know, where the cars are linked by telemetry and radar, and they travel together to reduce the impact of wind shear so they become more energy efficient. I've spoken at 2 trucking conferences in the last 2 months where we're talking about self-driving road trains, where the energy efficiency can improve by some 25% by having these vehicles that are linked by radar and telemetry. The world is evolving so fast, it's absolutely staggering. And what happens to the skills of the people in this world is those skills accelerate. Do you know your average trucker today, in the cab of his or her truck, has more technology in it, more sophisticated technology in it, than your average Cessna airplane? True fact. Now think about that trucker. Think about the skills that that trucker needs to know to do his or her job. And think about the flood of new capabilities and technology that is coming to them. Think about how that is happening in every single career and profession. What is it really all about? The favorite phrase I've ever witnessed, and I saw it about 20 years ago, and it shaped my life and my view of the future, came from an educator known as Lewis Perlman. When he observed, if you really think about what is going on here, learning is what most adults will do for a living in the 21st century. And think about your role given that reality. You know, think about what you need to change to keep up, in which that learning is accelerating. The volume of knowledge is increasing. And think about what you need to do to keep your infrastructure up to date as continuous new infrastructures flood you, as new testing capabilities come to the market, as all these new psychometric capabilities emerge, you know, which lets you analyze and evaluate in ways that you're not even beginning to think about now. And how do you challenge your infrastructure? How do you upgrade your infrastructure? How do you stay current in a world of rapidly changing technology? It's a big challenge. But that's what world-class innovators do. They align themselves to a future in which the future belongs to those who are fasting. And you know what? It's going to get even faster still. One of the biggest trends which is underway today is that Moore's Law is coming to impact the rate of change in every single industry. Remember Moore's Law? Moore's Law is the law that the processing power of a computer chip doubles every 18 months or less, while the cost cuts in half. And that's why we get this acceleration curve, this exponential curve in the power of computer technology with a collapse in cost. That trend is coming to every single industry. Think about what is happening with Tesla Motors. Think about what is happening as new organizations come to the automotive market. What is happening here is control of the speed of innovation is shifting from Detroit to Silicon Valley. Think about what is happening in the world of insurance. World of insurance, we're getting these driver performance monitoring technologies. Progressive is giving drivers the option to put a GPS-based device in the car. It monitors your speed, your acceleration, whether you're stopping at all the stop signs. If you are showing good driving performance, you get a 30% rebate in your insurance. Think about what is really happening here in terms of what's, the source of innovation in the insurance industry. The source of innovation is moving from the insurance industry, which historically has innovated at a really slow and glacial pace, and it's shifting out to computer companies which develop these GPS-based devices. Professions are impacted. Last October, I was a speaker at the CPCU 2012 conference, speaking to a bunch of actuaries in the property and casualty insurance industry. And the focus was, there's a real shift going on in the industry. There is an acceleration in the rate of change. How do we challenge ourselves as actuaries to keep up in a world in which the actuarial risk assumptions and analysis that we have to do is being subjected to great change? That is what that profession is talking about. And for those of you in the room in the insurance industry, how are you testing and certifying their capabilities in a whirlwind of change? You think of what's happening in the world of medicine and what's going on with genomic medicine. We're in a world right now in which we can look at a couple hundred strands of your DNA and we can determine with a high degree of accuracy what health conditions you are likely to develop throughout your lifetime. What happens here is the entire medical profession goes upside down. Right now, it's a system in which we fix you after you're sick. But when we can examine your DNA, you think about what is going on here on a long-term basis. We're switching from a system in which we know what you're going to become sick with. The healthcare system goes upside down. We're going from a system in which we fix you after you're sick to a system in which we know what you're going to become sick with. And what is happening with genomic sequencing machines is absolutely staggering. The cost is collapsing because the cost to develop the genomic sequencing machine is being subjected to Moore's law. It costs $3 billion to sequence the first human genome. By 2009, that was down to $100,000. By the middle of the year, it was down to $10,000. Middle of 2012. It's estimated by the end of this year, it's going to be down to $1,000. In 5 years, people in the medical profession are going to be able to walk into a local Radio Shack and buy for $5 a little human genomic sequencing machine. It's probably not a joke. It's probably real. And this changes everything in every single aspect of the world of medicine and healthcare. How are we going to challenge our testing protocols for this? How are we going to challenge ourselves to keep up with the future? How are we going to deal with a future in which everything around us is plugging into everything else? We live in a world in which every device which is a part of our daily life is going to plug into the internet. It's going to have an address on the internet. We're going to be aware of its location. We're going to be aware of its status. I was speaking at a healthcare conference a little while ago, and I said, you know what, this could get weird. This could get a little out of hand. One morning I might get up, I'll get on my weigh scale, it's going to send an email to my fridge, don't let Jim in today. He's not living up to his insurance wellness contract. Well, I'm in a good fitness regimen right now. I'm down 40 pounds from my peak. And in the home office, every morning I get up, I go down to the home office, and I stand on my Withings Wi-Fi body scale. Takes my body fat mass, takes my BMI, takes my weight, uploads it via Wi-Fi to this private password-protected website, which has all these cool graphs and charts, which keep me motivated to stay on the right track. The world around us is changing in so many different ways. It's estimated by the year 2020, there will be more than 50 billion devices connected to the internet. 6 devices per human. It's going to change careers, it's going to change professions, it's going to change everything around us. Go back to the example of the bankers. When our cell phones become credit cards, it's going to cause havoc and business model disruption. Think about what's happening with thermostats. Think about what is happening here with Nest. One of the key designers of the Apple iPod, he leaves Apple. He's thinking, what am I going to do next? He's sitting in his home. He's looking at the thermostat. He's thinking to himself, well, it sells for $20 at Home Depot. It's not very smart. It's not programmable, really. It's not connected. It's not very pretty. They all look like the same white rectangular boxes. So he develops the Nest Learning Thermostat, which monitors your usage, very easy to use. There's an app for that. And he sells it to Google for $3 billion. You know, we had an internet-connected thermostat brought into our home about 8 years ago. The early adopter in the Carroll household. And we brought in our heating, ventilation, air conditioning guy. And, you know, he looked at it and he said, you know, I can do the HVAC wires, I can get that, but this has all this Ethernet stuff. I don't know how to wire for Ethernet. And I said, that's okay, my 12-year-old son will do it, and he did. Think about what is happening to that profession. We're certifying these people that they are capable HVAC professionals. And all of a sudden, this skill set they need to do their job has changed at a furious pace. In the energy industry, it's bigger. What is happening is the emergence of big, intelligent energy infrastructure. I was talking to this energy company a few weeks ago. You know, we're talking about the sophistication of the technology that is emerging and the emergence of new careers, new industries, new jobs, new skills, with energy services management outsourcing, energy efficiency firms, private grid managers. You know, we live in a world in which with the growth of these industries is absolutely staggering. $10 billion in 2005 going to $85 billion and growing to $248 billion. Are you prepared to evolve at the speed in which you will be able to certify and test people in industries which are only beginning to just appear at the fringes of the industries you represent? Wow, it's a lot of change. And what this is doing is what is really happening here is the process by which we acquire knowledge is changing, particularly with the next generation. You know, I flew down here Friday morning with my son. I've been fighting a sinus infection. I'm based in Toronto, and you know, minus 30 degrees is not really good when you have a sinus infection. So my wife said to me on Thursday, you're going down anyway. Why don't you go Friday and take your son, Thomas? Thomas is 18, he's at the back of the room. We're golfers. Tom's a really good golfer. I'm not so good a golfer. We were on the first tee yesterday. I'm just telling this little story. It's kind of fun. We're on the first tee. President Joe Biden's teeing off on the tee box right beside us. And Thomas politely went over and asked if he could get a picture. And he indulged him. What a thrill for an 18-year-old kid. Kind of fascinating to think about. We got a war going on in Korea, or in Ukraine, and Joe Biden is out for a round of golf. Here's the thing. All of us who have children learn about our future world by viewing the world through their eyes. I have two sons who are 18 and 20. And Thomas, who is in the room, you know, is as fascinating as his older brother, Willie. And I've learned some things about how he acquires knowledge. You know, last year, we were out golfing. And he said to me one day, Dad, you know, I really need some new golf clubs. And we're trying to teach them everything as how to do things right. You've got to be fiscally responsible. If you want to make a purchase, Mom and Dad aren't going to do everything. And I said, well, Thomas, you know, you're going to have to, do some work and, raise the money to do that. And he said to me, Dad, well, I've got $700. And I said, oh, where'd that come from? Well, over the years, I noticed that Tom played this video game called Maple Story quite a bit. And one day I come home, and the laptop is sitting on the kitchen counter, and there's a whole bunch of quarters on the mouse pad. And I said to Tom, what's going on? He said, well, I'm just doing a little project on the game. Do you know what he was actually doing over a period of months? He was figuring out, how do I play this game and gain superpowers in this game so I can acquire these skills and badges and capabilities, none of which I understand because I'm not a computer gamer, which he could then sell on PayPal to other kids who wanted those skills and badges and capabilities. And he raised $700 in doing so. He wasn't doing anything illegal. He was just figuring out that in the world of gaming, outsourcing has come to the world of gaming. His dad, I got enough money for my golf clubs. But you know what happened as he was doing this? He was figuring out more about computer technology. He was figuring more out about the systems behind this game. And what I realized by watching him then, and by watching him now, is he lives in a world of real-time knowledge ingestion. I realize that this generation is continually ingesting new knowledge through the screens which are a part of their life. And it's all based on video. When I watch Thomas, every time he sets off to learn something new, it tends to involve YouTube. You all know about the Khan Academy. You all know massive disruption is coming to the world of education. You all know there is seismic change occurring in the business models of education delivery. And so much of it seems to be evolving around the ingestion of knowledge via video. Contrast that to the reality of what we're trying to deal with in the world. Years ago I wrote this document called 10 Big Trends for the Legal Profession. What is going to impact the legal profession in the future? And one of the things they said is, they're going to be dealing with rapid change and specialization. What is happening to knowledge in the legal community is everybody is becoming a specialist because there's so much legal knowledge. Nobody can know everything there is to know about every single aspect of the world of legal knowledge. Everybody becomes a specialist. 10 years after I've written this document, I'm still speaking to legal firms across the US to help them comprehend the change that they are in the middle of right now. I am in Las Vegas in 2 weeks with one of the largest legal firms in the US, talking about the very essence of knowledge acquisition in the legal community has forever changed. And it's accelerating at such a degree. And how do we ensure the LSAT remains relevant in a world of constant knowledge acquisition? How do we deal with the challenges which are coming our way with new technologies? We're going to have knowledge acquisition via Google Glass. Knowledge streaming into our eyes through sophisticated technology. At the same time, that technology is a double-edged sword. What is it going to mean in terms of testing protocols? Guarantees against cheating, intellectual property. Huge, fascinating things which are coming along. A few years ago, I spoke at the College Board and spoke about the reality of what is happening with knowledge. 10 key realities. What is happening is, we're witnessing the world of rapid knowledge obsolescence, rapid knowledge emergence, the disappearance of existing careers, and the emergence of new careers. We are witnessing an ongoing need for continuous knowledge replenishment in every single profession, including the legal profession, the healthcare profession, the migration of knowledge generation further away from academia to those involved in business model disruption in the world of education, a massively increased challenge from overseas knowledge generation, the fast emergence of new micro-careers, in a situation in which truly the economy of this country is dependent on how well we generate new knowledge. You know what the future of knowledge is? I call it just-in-time knowledge. We are going to a world in which our ability to get the right knowledge at the right time, at the right pace, for the right purpose, will define our success. And I think all this provides a fundamental transformation of your world. Think about the CBA exam of 2020. You're going to be doing it through an Xbox. With gamification, we all laugh, but that could be a reality. Are you prepared to deal with how quickly we might get there? Because the next generation is so entirely different. Let me ask a little question. How many of you, the very first computer course you ever took in your life involved learning COBOL, BASIC, or Fortran? Hold up your hands and look at us. Look around the room. The vast majority of us in the room, the very first time we ever met computer technology, we met the punch card. And it said to us, do not fold, spindle, or mutilate. We still don't know what spindle means. And here's the thing. I think what happened here is we are a very unique generation, we baby boomers. My great-grandparents never had to deal with this stuff. Thomas and Willie have grown up in a world in which they've always had this friendly little computer experience at their fingertips through a mouse. Thomas came down to the home office one day and he said, Dad, I got to ask you a question. I've been working in a home office for 25 years, so they've always had me around. And he said, I got to ask you a question. I'd often come down to the office and you'd be sitting there, you'd be playing the black game. And he said, I never understood the purpose of that game. And I said, Thomas, I have no idea what you're talking about. He said, you would sit at the desk and you would open up this little window that was black and you would type a bunch of stuff into it. And I'm trying to figure out how do you win this game. Do you know what he was talking about? I'm in Windows 95, I'm in Windows for Work Groups, I'm in Windows something or other. And I'm going into MS-DOS. Command.com, copy, star. He thought it was a game. They have never had to meet MS-DOS. What has happened to us baby boomers because of our exposure to technology is we are a very unique generation, and we feel battered and bruised by what we have been through. Ogden Nash captured it perfectly. He said, for a lot of us, we're of the mindset that progress is great. It's gone on way too long. This Jim Carroll guy has totally freaked me out at this point in time about the speed of change which is going on in the future. This next generation is different. This little cartoon puts in perspective perfectly the very unique period of time in which we find ourselves today. Here is a child helping his father install some software. Okay, Dad, you've loaded the disk. What you got to do is, transfer the file to here, and then double-click to open it. So the child is walking his father through, step by step, how to install a piece of software. And the last frame really puts in perspective the reality of the world in which we find ourselves today. See, Dad, that's how you install an internet porn filter. Think about it. And we live in an absolutely extraordinary period of time. And because we baby boomers met the mainframe, it's impacted our ability to deal with change. It's impacted how we cope with change, because we went through a lot. And that goes back to that phrase by Einstein, which you all know. We keep trying to do the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result each time. That's how we define insanity. This next generation is fundamentally different. This next generation thrives on change. They thrive in innovation. They thrive on new ideas. If they don't get innovation and change, they get extremely bored extremely quickly. And half of the global population at this point in time is under the age of 25. They're globally wired, entrepreneurial, collaborative, connected. And they are now coming into industries and changing things at a furious pace. And what is the impact on skills and knowledge and careers and testing? This, I think, is the hugest challenge facing this industry. They are so fundamentally different. I was speaking at a financial conference last week talking about my sons. My older son, we're at a place where we're renting kayaks. They don't have credit card technology to accept our cards. I didn't have any cash. And I asked my older son, well, do you have? I don't use cash, Dad. He actually does not use cash. Hasn't used cash in years. So we're crossing the street to go over to this bakery where they've got an ATM machine. And he's holding his phone in the sky. And I said, Willie, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm trying to get a cell signal because I need to move some money from my checking account to my saving account so I can take it out of the ATM. Fundamentally different relationship with everything in their life. They don't use cash. This generation is going to change everything in terms of knowledge acquisition, knowledge delivery, testing, and certification. The future belongs to those who are fast. And that's why your focus is innovation. That's why your focus is, how do you take my message? Some people hear my message and see a threat and go, oh my gosh, my world is going to be extremely challenging. Some people see a trend and see the future and see a threat. Innovators see the same trend and see an opportunity. And that's why your focus for the conference this year is this big word, innovation. How are you going to challenge yourself to change? So that you are not someone that views a world in which the future belongs to those who are fast with fear and trepidation, but instead you are going to embrace it and make it part of what you do and part of what you think and take advantage of all the opportunities it presents. And to do that, what you need to do is adopt a simple mindset. Think big, start small, scale fast. Think really big in terms of the opportunities you can pursue. Start a whole bunch of small-scale projects to beef up your capabilities and knowledge and learn how to scale faster than you have in the past. I will leave you with 10 words, which should form the core of the way you think about innovation. Number one, observe. There's a lot going on out there, and think about what these trends mean. Think about how it's going to challenge you, but think of how it might provide opportunity, and think about what you need to change. What do you need to change in terms of your ability to deal with change? What do you need to change in the culture of your organization so that you're an organization that has the agility to keep up with fast-paced change? Where do you need to take some risks? There's a lot of vendors upstairs with a lot of nifty ideas, a lot of cool things going on. And you might look at some of those things and think to yourself, whoa, that's a little bit too freaky, that's a little bit too scary, I could never try that. And when you get that reaction, write that down, because you're going back, when you go back to the home office, you have to try that thing. We sometimes need to force ourselves to do the things that are risky because it is the only way that we can get out of a sense of complacency that can hold us back from the future. We need to banish. You know what the most challenging thing is today with a lot of organizations? We have people in organizations that when they wake up in the morning, the very first thought that comes to their mind is, what am I going to do today to kill great ideas? Seriously, this is what they do. You know how I know they do this? Because of the words and phrases that they bring into the meetings when we're trying to move forward with new ideas. Somebody puts forward a great idea, and one of these individuals will come up with the worst phrase that we use in the world of business and education today. What is that phrase? You can't do that because we've always done it this way. They use phrases such as, it won't work, it's the dumbest idea I ever heard, the boss won't go for it, it's doomed to failure. Why can't we just keep doing what we've been doing all along? You need to banish the innovation killer phrases which provide an organizational sclerosis, which clogs up our ability to pursue and take advantage of the future. You need to try and do some things you haven't done before. When you go up to the trade show floor and when you're talking to people and having your cocktail parties, you should be watching for 3 or 4 ideas. When you hear those ideas, you think to yourself, those are really cool. I am going to commit to going back and doing those 3 things because I need to get out of my innovation rut. You're going to question. We develop assumptions and habits and routines. The way my children, the way your children, the way the next generation ingests knowledge is fundamentally different from anything we have ever known before. So we have to question the assumptions behind everything we do. We have to focus on growth. It's all about opportunity. If the world is changing, it's all about opportunity. You have to do. And that's why you have this conference. The purpose of this conference is to energize you, excite you, reposition you for the future, reset your mind, reboot your view of the future. You do those 9 things, you get to the 10th most important word of innovation of all, and that's enjoy. Thank you very much. Have a great conference.